Hello students, this is Mr. Nardelli from math class. I'm going to be talking about adding and subtracting decimals today. Now remember, when you add and subtract decimals, always remember to line up the decimals. You'll probably have them all written out in horizontal form like this. So if I have my first one, which is 23.864 plus 86.2, it doesn't matter which one goes on top as long as I'm lined up. Now notice what I did for the 86.2. I put the two zeros at the end because that tends to help us out a little bit. So make sure you're lined up and you're neat, and you have, in this case, 4 plus 0 is 4. Let's try to get these lined up. And 6 plus 0 is 6. We'll try to get these lined up. That's pretty good. And then remember, I have my 8 plus 2, so that's 10. I have to put my 0 down and carry my 1. So now I'll have 6 plus 3, which is 9, plus 1 is 10, and I'll put my 0 down. But before I do that, I should probably put my decimal. Let's line these up good. Okay, so I have 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, so I put my 0 down. I carry my 1 again, and there's a 1 to be carried. And it's not lined up too well there. Then I would have 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So I would get 11, excuse me, 110.6064. And notice I have them pretty lined up. I guess the best I could do, that's much better. Best I can do on a computer. Now, when I have an equation like my subtraction, my 19.0032 minus 4.2, in the addition, it didn't matter which one was on top. In this one, it does matter. The first one must be the one on top. So I'm going to, once again, create a problem like this. And notice I put the 4.21 on the bottom. And it's a good idea to probably put your zeros in there just to line it up. So I've got 19.032 minus 4.2100. My first ones are pretty straightforward. I get 2 minus 0 is 2, if it'll show up for me. Just one, there we go. Let's move it over a little bit. 2 minus 0 is 2. We don't need that line. And then 3 minus 0 is 3. Let's space this over. Line it up a little bit. There we go. Now, here I get into something interesting. 0 minus 1, so I'm going to have to regroup. You probably learned it as borrowing, and that's fine. I can't regroup from this 0, so I have to move all the way over to this 9. So what I'm going to do is cross out the 9 and borrow 1. Oops, sorry about that. Borrow 1 from the 9, call it an 8. Then I'm going to have to cross out that 0, and that 0 becomes actually a 9. Let's see if we can fit it in there. It's getting a little tight. And then this 0, the one that I borrowed from, now becomes a 10. And it's going to be over a little bit. Now, if you're comfortable with putting the little line there and making it 10 there, that's fine. So now I've got 10 minus 1 to give me 9. Let's do a little spacing here. And I've got 9 minus 2 giving me 7. Once again, doing a little bit of spacing. It's always a good idea to put that decimal in first so that you don't accidentally forget it at the end. Now I've got my 8 minus 4 giving me a 4 in front of that decimal. Moving it over to space, and then that 1 minus 0 gives me just the 1. That looks all nice and lined up. And I get 14.7932. If you need any help, please email me at nardelli.efsc@gmail.com. Thanks. Talk to you later.